Here's one that I wouldn't have asked you if you were still in, but now you're retired, I will.
All right, send it.
As the commander of Buds, how much pressure did you get to push through a female candidate?
It's a really, really good question. Here's what I'll say. DEI was absolutely starting to infiltrate the ranks of naval special warfare, 100%. We had a DEI officer at Warcom. We had training events, where they said, hey, we need to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I would always say I'm going to talk about equality of opportunity, not equity. Yeah. So I would kind of,
equality and equity are not the same thing.
Not the same thing. If you haven't researched the differences, Google them today, please. Big differences. So it was starting to infiltrate. Here's what I love. I was there at a unique place in time where we did have females coming through. In fact, during my command tour, we produced the first female SWCC warfighter ever. Mm-hmm. She is incredible. Impressed the hell out of me. And I made sure she earned it. We absolutely made sure she earned it. She did. She got no special favors. Yeah. We also had the first female come into Hell Week ever. It's the first one to make it that far going into Hell Week. And what was so refreshing to me is even though you had DEI infiltrating, I could feel it. It was there. And we felt it from DC 100%. Yeah. We were getting calls and pressure. Hey, just get one through. Yeah. What does that mean? And even can you just give us one win? What do you mean? We have curriculum, we have criteria, we have standards. If they meet the standard, fantastic. Yeah, right. No problems. If they don't meet the standard, no, I'm not going to get one through, for your political agenda. So I was very fortunate that my bosses at the time 100% were aligned with you hold the standard. You hold the standard. In fact, it was great. The female quit the first day after Hell Week. She was phenomenal, but her body was just broken. Like it just destroyed her. Yeah. Destroyed her. Total stud. I pulled her in the room with my CMC afterward. Hey, what happened? By the way, we're a learning organization. What can we be doing better? You're clearly a minority here as a female. Did we provide you equality of opportunity? Did you feel like you had a fair shot? All the questions. Absolutely. 100%. Yes, sir. Professional program. I was very proud of our instructors. But then in the report that went up, it was great. My Commodore at the time was talking to the Admiral and he said, hey, sir, just got to let you know, she didn't make it. She quit on after whatever. And the Admiral said, well, and this is Wyman Howard again. Love this dude. Yeah. He said, well, she didn't make it. Well, should we change the standard to accommodate that maybe? And the Commodore is like, no, sir. The standard's a standard. She just didn't make it. And then Wyman Howard goes, good. That was a test. You passed. So I was like, yes, we had such support at that leadership at that time, to hold the standard. So 100%, I guarantee with my reputation on the line, every female that got into the program earned everything she accomplished. And we held the line for sure.
Well, I'll say this, not as a service member, as an American, thank you, because, this isn't a political thing. This is a national security.
That's issue.
Right. And the standards cannot be changed for anything. And if one day, some stud female becomes the first Navy SEAL, then
great.
Then good for her. But we could talk about the operational aspects of that after. But but the standard should never be compromised.
The standard's standard. And like you said, and like I said, when we graduated the SWCC graduate, she was great because at her graduation, she pulled me aside before. She said, hey, sir, I don't want today to be about me. Mm-hmm. And I know there's pressure, but she said, it's about my class. It's about us. It's about the team. And I was like, dude, I love that. That's exactly why you made it, And so in my speech, I said, listen, I appreciate that. I have to at least address this because you broke, right. You paved a path. Yeah. So the way we framed it, it was great. We said, hey, today is like any other day. We are producing some SWCC warfighters. One just happens to be a female. So we welcome a sister into the brotherhood. And that's the only thing we do. And after that, that's just everything about the candidates.
I mean, for me personally, there's certain jobs that, I don't see a female fitting into that culture and it'd be a operational, liability. It just, Marine Corps infantry. I personally don't see that, but, in a job like SWCC, I mean, I think that's a great place for a young woman to go and test her grit and go serve in that capacity.
If they meet the standard, they meet the standard.
I think it's great.
We used to say the cold Pacific Ocean does not discriminate.
Yes.
She dishes out equal suffering to all. Whatever you look like, she doesn't care.
Well, I mean, I think statistically females carry more body fat, so they probably have an advantage there.
There you go. There you go. That's true. That's probably true. Yeah. So again, yeah. And that's the problem with equity, right? Is if you try to accommodate every individual person's strength or weakness and equalize the playing field, well, it's a never ending game, So, okay, what's next? Short guys can do more pull-ups and push-ups because they have less distance to travel and less weight to push for that distance. So should we make them do more?
Everybody had a hole in their shoulder from the Zodiacs carrying the boats for me, but I had one on top of my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
so
you can't equalize it. And so it's a fool's errand to try. And so instead, we build the standard based upon the requirements. What is the warfighter requirements downrange? What do our missions require? What does our nation require? Now that determines the standard. And then the standard's the standard. And you meet it or you don't. But like you said, it's a national security issue if you start diluting the standard, because now you're diluting what the capability is downrange.
100%.
Yeah.
So in this generation, I've heard you mention before that this generation is different, but not weaker.
Right.
In some aspects, they're maybe even better.
Yeah.
What can you say about this current generation, becoming Navy SEALs? And who some of the candidates actually are?
Yeah, they're great. They're great. And it's super fun to make fun of the generation behind us, right? I mean, the boomers love to make fun of the Gen Xers. We love to make fun of the millennials. And now everyone loves to make fun of Gen Z. That's fine. Once we get past that part, it's important to, as leaders, understand that there are massive generational differences. And if we're not studying those and we're not evolving our leadership techniques to be relevant there, then we're making mistakes. And we're failing. And in an all-volunteer military, we're going to start driving them away, because one of the nuances I've noticed of Gen Z is they have a very low tolerance for BS. Whereas like a Gen Xer, a baby boomer would be yelling at me because this is the way they learned and it's what the World War II generation taught them and blah, 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 blah. I'd be like, well, roger that. Well, I'll just endure this, this incompetence or this toxic leader that I see at this level because, this is just the way it goes. Gen Xers are very impatient with that. And so they're going to vote with their feet. They may come to us. We may have a great surge right now of recruitment, but I can tell you, having talked with a lot of them in the teams right now, they're like, hey, I'm a little underwhelmed at what I'm seeing. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to walk away from it. And so we're going to have retention problems, which is what we are seeing right now. They are, like I said, they're way more cognizant. Back in the day, we would work out and then we'd go eat pizza and drink a beer. They're more conscious of what they're putting into their bodies. They're dialing in their nutrition plans. So they're much more efficient machines, so to speak, physically. So they're showing up in better shape, I think, than we ever did. One of the things I've talked with Preston Klein about a lot at the Mission Critical Teams, and he's studied this stuff for years. The thing that they probably suffer at the most is, he calls it either resiliency or robustness. I can't remember the difference, but one he describes as the ability to take a punch, not physically, but symbolically. The next one was your ability to recover after that punch and get back in the game. So to pick yourself back up after failure. And I can't remember which one's which under his terminology, but that's what we've noticed where some of them suffer at. When they fail, they have a hard time getting back up and getting back in the game. They'll self-defeat and spiral sometimes. So a lot of people will be like, oh, they're just weaker because of that. No, that's not true. They are much more mindful than we are. They're much more aware of their surroundings, and their ability to maneuver through that space is way more astute than what we were going through. So there's some things they excel at way better than our generations, but there's some things they need to work at, like every generation. This doesn't mean they're just weaker. It means we need to tailor our leadership and start tailoring our program to figure out, okay, how do I build that in them then? Because we know we need that. They already have things that we love, but we know we need this as well. How do we add that into the curriculum? How do we help build that in and help them fall forward instead of self-defeat? And I've told stories about guys who failed one evolution in buds, total stud, was doing great, failed one evolution and quit. Don't do that, dude.
Right.
But you can't unring the bell in our community.
Right.
That's a sacred thing. Once you ring it, you're done. Sorry, man. But okay, how do we get left to that decision? How do we help build some resiliency in that guy? Because he could have been a great SEAL, but he let himself spiral emotionally and cognitively after one failure and then quit. So I think that's what we need to kind of zone in on in our preparatory program and in boot camp as we're taking these young Americans from their homes. I don't know how they were raised. Maybe they were helicopter parented. That seems to be a problem these days. Well, that's going to that's going to decrease your resilience if mommy and daddy removed all the obstacles from you as you grew up through your teenage years. Okay, I can't fix 18 years of that, but we can certainly start trying. We can certainly start baking in designed failure, organized failure, with left and right constraints and limits to help you grow through that. We can do that at boot camp. That's easy. These are like easy things to do that we should absolutely be doing to help them accommodate where their generation might need some work. But we should also be capitalizing on where they're great. And they're great in a lot of spots for sure. Yeah.